Hi, everybody. Welcome back to episode number 5. Last time in episode number 4, we talked about how to be great at networking, even if you're an extrovert. And today we are going to talk about the experience myth. How do you break into project management if you've never had the title before? Doesn't that mean you don't have project management experience? That's what we're going to talk about today. And here, as always, is the amazing, fabulous Nada Buhendi. Welcome back, Nada.
Thank you, Kayla. So I know in episode number 3, you talked about how to get your first project manager role, and you talked about your iron triangle. And one of the components in the previous episode that you talked about was networking. And today we're talking about experience. And in the next one, we're going to talk about credentials.
Yes.
I really love your iron triangle concept, by the way, because it's very clear in helping people figure out what is it that they need to do in order to either break into a project manager role or move up. Yes. And yes, I think all of us have this fear that our career history is not going to support what we're targeting. And that's sort of like the catch 2022 that a lot of people go through, because you don't want to be where you are. You feel stagnant, you feel unhappy, maybe you're not very well compensated, and you want to make a change in your life, because we, at the end of the day, the reason we do what we do, why we work, obviously we want to create a greater impact. We want to help people because it gets us out of bed excited, right? But we also want to be well compensated because it drastically changes the quality of our life.
Yes.
I mean, absolutely. Cost of living is obviously going up, it just keeps going up. Yep. You want to be able to go on vacation. You want to be able to provide, for your family. You also want to have freedom. You want possibilities. You don't want to be at the mercy of an organization, right? That controls your future.
Oh, yes. Oh, that's such a big one.
Yes, absolutely. So, something that I heard you share with me is that you get people who tell you that their background looks like hopscotch across industries.
Yes.
And that they're not a PM expert. They're not they're not an expert in whatever industry that they want to get into.
Yes.
So what do you have to say about that? Because you also have like specific requirements in terms of, hey, like you need to at least have this minimum criteria in order to get project management, because, you're an honest person. But I also feel people go in the other extreme where they get imposter syndrome. They start questioning their experience and they feel it is impossible to navigate this transition.
Yes. So what I tell people is your background is not indicative of who you are as an employee and as a person and as the value that you add. Project management is not about an industry. It's not about a title. It's not about the company that you worked at. It's about owning outcomes, creating momentum, and getting people aligned so that they can finish what matters. So hopscotch, if you've been all over the place, that's fine. That's not evidence of your inability to be a project manager. That is what you use to see the through line. What did you do in every single role that aligns with what a project manager does? To harken back to an earlier episode, remember the definition of a project. It is time-bound, starts and it stops, and it results in something unique. So if you have been leading initiatives like that or being part of moving initiatives like that forward throughout your quote unquote hopscotch career, then you probably have project management experience, particularly if you have 5 years or more of professional experience. And what I mean by that is corporate or public sector, in the government, maybe at a nonprofit, even volunteer work. This stuff, you're getting project management experience.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think a lot of people who say that tend to be, they call themselves jack of all trades and master of none.
Or generalists.
Yeah, and generalist. I would think that that's actually a good thing for someone who's a project manager, because do you necessarily need to be like the expert on the project, or would you be relying on the people who are on the project?
Yes. Oh my goodness. You should not be the expert on the project because it's very hard to be the project manager and the expert. I am a legal project manager, not a some legal project managers out there, let's call them LPMs just for the sake of ease.
Yeah.
They have Juris Doctorates, like
Yeah.
law degrees,
Yeah.
right? And they're leading legal projects. I do not have a law degree, nor do I think I should, because it's very, very easy to get sucked into doing actual legal work, being an expert, being someone who can do the boots on the ground work when you have that sort of technical background. You
Mm.
don't need that. You need to understand how to motivate people, how to communicate well, how to get things done, how to push something across a finish line. That is not industry expertise. That is project management expertise.
Yeah. And you know what comes to my mind is when people say that I don't have the transferable skills from a psychological point of view, because I know you're very passionate about psychology.
Mm,
Why do you think people have this like limiting belief that they don't have the experience?
yes. I love that you bring that up because I do love the psychology. Okay. So, what is happening behind the scenes here with your brain? Our brains evolved to be risk adverse because risk means potentially death, right? So, the unknown is to be avoided so that you can survive. Because back in the day, when we're on the savannah, a rustling in the bush, that could be the wind, right? Or it could be a saber-toothed tiger that's going to pounce on you and eat you, and you are going to die. So your brain literally evolved to be constantly scanning for threats and avoiding negative outcomes as much as possible. And when you are switching careers, if you're pivoting or doing something really big or trying to get promoted, your brain sees that as a threat because it doesn't know the outcome. It doesn't know that you're going to be successful. It doesn't know that you're going to get the job that you want or that you're going to get the promotion. It starts to scan for all of these threats. Maybe you'll cue your boss that you're trying to look and they'll fire you, or maybe you'll take a misstep, you'll take the wrong job and then it'll end up being worse for your career, or maybe this, maybe that. So your brain fills in those unknown gaps with bad things, all the bad things that could happen. So, this is very much like informed by your past. So if
Mm.
you've had some really bad or negative things happen in your past, or you know people who have had bad negative things happen in their past, your brain will often take that information and fill it in and be very convincing that it's absolute truth. So what ends up happening is your brain fills that gap, the fear gap, with untrue information, and then it tells you a little story to make you feel better. And sometimes that story is, I don't have the right experience, or I'm just going to wait a little bit longer, or I've never really had the title. I need more credentials. I need this. I need that. And all of a sudden, it becomes, I'm staying where I am because it's strategic, it's logical, it makes
Mhm.
sense,
Yeah.
rather than what it really is, which is I'm staying stuck because I am scared. I am scared of the outcomes and I am scared of the unknown.
That makes complete sense. Truly.
Yeah. And when you look at it that way, I think it's not obvious, right? But when someone I remember someone explaining it to me and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that is why. That's why I'm not moving forward or doing these things because I am letting my brain lie to me and create a reality that is just not true."
Um, I think that it's very difficult for someone to see for themselves that they have a great experience. And I think if I, think of through all of my experiences and people who are around me, it's almost like you are going to a store and you just found this beautiful dress and you put it on and you look in the mirror and you still don't know if it looks good on you.
Mm.
And you need that someone from the outside who gives you that second perspective. And I feel like that's what you do for your clients, right? Because you
Yes.
bring in, first of all, you've gone through what they have gone through
Mhm.
breaking into PM. You understand the difference between fear and truth. If
Mhm.
this is truly a constraint or if this is something that's coming out of fear.
Mhm.
And of course, you've been in the field for a while now, being a project manager and a senior project manager for so many years. So you know what hiring managers look for.
Mhm.
And I feel like having that perspective is so valuable because people can miss opportunities by telling themselves that they're not qualified. And if only they can talk to someone who can validate it, it can make a tremendous difference.
Yes, yes. And when I talk to my clients and I help them reframe their experience or look at it in a different light, the light bulb moments that, the little light bulbs they see go off over their head and just this excitement of, "Oh my gosh, you're right. I have been doing project management. I just wasn't looking at it that way." But when I sit and I ask them these questions, these very pointed questions about their background and what they were doing and the types of initiatives they were involved in, it starts to become very clear to them that they were doing project management. And as it becomes clear to them, they start to gain confidence. And as they gain confidence, they start to own their identity as a project manager. And that shift, when you start to step into your own identity as a project manager, that's where the real change happens because then you start taking actions that are in alignment with someone who is already a project manager. And that is just massive momentum within the job search.
Yeah, because, like I will give you an example of what I've personally navigated when I was trying to get into program management, agile sort of leadership roles, working part of the PMO. I engaged a career coach and she didn't understand that world. She did not have the context. And what happened was she literally took away some of the things that are so valuable in the industry. She started cutting out all of those experiences
Yeah.
that could help the hiring manager see that I understand the project management world. And that's
Mhm.
the problem when you hire someone who has not been in that world.
Yeah.
They don't know what hiring managers look for. They go by what they feel makes sense.
Yeah.
And then you end up, missing out on opportunities because of that.
Yeah, 100%. Or they're gonna make you look just way too generic because they're trying to
Yeah.
speak to something that they don't understand
Yeah.
rather than positioning your experience as someone who is clearly fit for this role. And I think this comes out a lot. It's so interesting when I talk to clients, they'll say, "I feel deep down like I can do it." But when
Hmm.
I look at a job description, I start to question myself. And
Hmm.
that, to me, that's actually an indicator that they do have the experience, like, it's deep
Yeah.
down, they know it, but they're just not quite sure how to frame it, and that's
Hmm.
where I come in, that's where I help them.
Yeah. Some people just don't know how to frame it in the language of the industry or the role they're trying to get into.
Yeah,
Right.
yep,
And the danger is when you're not working with someone to help you figure this out, is you end up misrepresenting yourself as well. You
yeah,
end up using whatever chat GPT tells you. And
mhm,
without that validation, it comes across pretentious. And
yeah,
hiring managers can smell it. They can
yeah.
tell that this is a stretch. They're
Oh,
looking for the
yes.
evidence, and that is missing because you're just having a hard time putting words to what you do.
Yes. Or another one that I see a lot is just sprinkling in project management jargon and
Oh,
hoping you're using it
that's
right.
so horrible.
Oh my gosh, yes, and I've actually seen people use project management terms incorrectly in a resume,
Mm,
and you wanna talk about making it obvious that you are not sure what you're talking about, that's gonna do it, and, ChatGPT will do that too, it will just integrate words into it, and when you don't actually understand it, you're just gonna accept what it gives you as reality, and that's where this gets really, really dangerous, so
yeah.
that is definitely something I see, just sprinkling those words all over the place.
Yeah, and you know what? The problem with ChatGPT is that it just mirrors what you already know, right? ChatGPT is not able to ask you, it's not designed to ask you questions that are outside of the box.
Mhm.
And so when someone's working with you, what I'm hearing is they may not think what questions to ask themselves in order to articulate their experience, but you're able to say like, what about this? Well, what about this project? Like, what did you do, right? I mean, can you think of some questions that you tend to ask people when you're helping them portray, their experience, whether it's on their resume or in an interview? What are some, common questions that you ask to kind of go deep and not just turn them into a generic project manager?
Yeah. So the first thing to do here is to identify what projects have you led. So
Mm,
sometimes I'll need to educate them on the definition of a project, right? It's time bound, it starts and stops, and it results in something unique. So then we'll start talking about, what have you done that's been in alignment with the definition I just outlined? And it could be something as day to day as well. I wrote a standard operating procedure for the reception desk. That's something that I did.
yeah.
And I'll say, "Okay, great. There's a project." And it's so interesting because people will almost immediately say, "Well, no, it's not. I didn't lead a team." And then the next question is, "Okay, so you're telling me you did this completely in a vacuum. You didn't ask anyone questions. You didn't report up to anyone about what you were doing. You didn't give the final product to anybody else. You literally just sat there and did everything 100% on your own."
Yeah.
And the answer is always no. I did ask somebody, I did, give somebody something. This is to be reused later on by someone else. There you go. Okay? You maybe you didn't lead a team of 50 people. You don't have to lead a team of
Mm,
50 people, but you did bring a few people together to get an initiative past a finish line. Okay?
yeah. And that's the difference between working with a human than an AI is because the AI is not going to go back and forth with you and challenge you. It's just going to believe what you said and run with it.
You'll say, "But I didn't work with a team," and it'll be like, "You're right. You
You're
didn't
right.
work with a."
You didn't work with a team.
That's a good point. You're very smart for pointing that out.
Exactly. Now,
Love it.
here's something that I commonly see, right? Because in this day and age, everyone pretends that they have experience. And sometimes I'm scrolling on LinkedIn and I have no idea if this person is a real project manager or they just faked, they were project manager.
Yeah.
And they have this vertical line that says project manager and they just feel like it's enough to put in the title.
Uh-huh.
So how do you, one of the things that people, say to me is that, oh gosh, I have been doing the project management role officially, but I can't get over this hurdle from an HR perspective because I don't have the title. So
Yes.
how do you help people overcome this? Because they don't want to lie, obviously. So how do you
Yeah.
help them?
Yes. So you mentioned this little vertical bar, which is kind of hard to describe if you're listening to this audibly, but it's just a little up and down bar that you can find on your keyboard. So what I've had clients. I just had one come to me that said, "I made it to the last round of the interview, but they inevitably told me, well, I didn't have the title, so, they went with someone else." Which, by the
Mm,
way, I don't think that's truly why, and we
yeah.
can get into that at another time.
They
I think it's
never
just
they
like
never really tell you the true reason.
exactly,
Yeah.
right? Like, that's just a convenient
Mhm.
excuse, basically. Um, but if you want to get around that, I tell people you have a primary role and title, and you have a secondary role and title, and it is okay to use both. You must put on LinkedIn, your resume, your actual title. Like, do not leave that off.
Yeah, don't
And
lie.
then, yeah, don't lie. Um, and it is okay to add that a little vertical bar after that and then say project manager because you were unofficially a project manager. And that is fine. You were just claiming the title of the things that you did on a daily basis while still making it very clear. Actually, I was an operations specialist, or actually, I was a receptionist or a business analyst or whatever it might be. But that little vertical bar is a lifesaver.
Yeah. And I think in the previous, one of the previous episodes, you kind of busted this myth of someone not having the previous title. I think it was Frank. He was a band manager and he was able to get
Yeah.
into project management and he didn't
Yes.
have the title, right?
Yeah. I mean, a very large majority of my clients come without having had the project manager title. Now I do also work with clients who have the PM title and want to land the next role that is in alignment with them or want to get promoted. But for those who come to me without the formal title, yes, Frank was a band manager. Ryan was a parking operations specialist. Hannah was a teacher. Who else? Chloe was an implementation specialist. Morgan was I believe she was in reception as well. Just such varied backgrounds of people, and everyone that I just listed landed project manager roles,
Mhm.
and a lot of them didn't have their PMPs.
Wow.
Some of them did and were having a hard time landing a role before they came to me, but you absolutely don't need the title. It all comes in how you frame your experience and how you make it obvious to the hiring manager that you have done this before, whether or not you've had the title.
Absolutely. So I know that you don't just help people break into project management, you also help them move up.
Yes.
And not even just about moving up within organizations, moving up, by making a change, and getting a much higher role at another organization. But it also sounds like you also help people become more effective as
Mhm.
project managers.
Yes.
Um, Now, the thing that I'm curious about, though, is I'm sure there are people out there who are not sure whether they're already PMs or they want to make the move into project management. They don't know if they should make a career change, right? They don't know if it is time to move on. What are some of the signs based on your personal experience of having navigated this, been in organizations with not an amazing culture, and helping many, many clients, hundreds of clients make that change? What are the things that you notice that make it a clear indication that you just need to pull the plug and take your chances? Otherwise, you're going to get sick and you're going to waste years of your life feeling miserable.
Yes. Well, first of all, just coming from my own experience at staying at a role for too long, sometimes the universe will tell you because you lose the job.
Oh, God.
That happened to me. I knew for a long time that it was not in alignment with me, and I did not take steps fast enough. And the universe was like, "It's time. Like you're actually going to lose this, so that you have to take steps." But that aside, what I see a lot and what I experienced myself was your growth flatlines where you are. There's nowhere else to go, either because the company has a ceiling or because you've kind of stumbled into where you are. So because of that, you're not sure what the next step is. When I decided to move into project management, I kind of went back and forth for a little bit between, oh, maybe I want to be an accountant, or maybe I want to be a
Mhm.
data analyst, or this or that. And I kept hitting these
Yeah.
walls, these like ceilings that basically were telling me, no, Kayla, you can't do that for one reason or another. But when you hit that ceiling, that is a really big indicator. Another big one is you dread going to work every day. I feel like this is so normalized.
Oh,
Like,
it's horrible.
like you're supposed to hate going to work. And listen, work is work, okay? Yes, it is titled work for a reason. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. Like that's a little
Yeah,
toxic
there are days that
positivity.
are definitely tougher than others, right? But it shouldn't feel like this
Yes.
every day.
Yeah, exactly. But every single day, if you get those Sunday scaries every week and every day, you're just sitting at your desk feeling exhausted and drained, and it's like you just have nothing left to give,
Yeah.
that's a huge indicator. Another one is having a toxic manager,
Oh
someone who
gosh.
blocks your visibility or blocks your advancement. I've had people come to me and say, Kayla, my manager said, I have to tick X, Y, and Z boxes to move over to project management. And they told me that I can't do it. Like, there's no way I'll be able to tick the boxes. That is a toxic boss, a
Mm.
toxic manager at their finest. And that is not a place for you to be. Your manager should be helping you tick those boxes, should be figuring out what to do to get you that advancement. And if they are not, it's time to get out.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people leave companies because of the people most of the time,
Yeah.
I would say. So you definitely want to find, a company with a great culture and great people.
Yep.
And it sounds like that is part of the framework, right? When you help people figure out the right role, you really sit down with them and help them understand what is it that they want before they make the move.
Mhm.
Um, okay. So, wow, Kayla, like it's so important, I feel. Like there's so many aspects to this that you've shared in this episode that really really are important for people to take note of. You can make a costly mistake in your career if you don't get the right, support. You could be floundering around trying so many things, and it's just going to waste you so many years and even like, I mean, project management roles are six figures. You
Yeah.
could be like, you know, wasting like six figures,
Yeah.
multiple six figures over a span of multiple years. And this is why it's important to work with a professional so that they can validate that the roles that you're going after are within your competency and not beneath you, but also not overwhelming to the point that you end up getting put on a PIP or failing or getting fired,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
you've gone through all of that and you
Mhm.
can relate to what people are going through. But
Yes, I
not
can.
only have you gone through that, Kayla, but you've helped hundreds of people actually replicate this, which is amazing, amazing. So I really invite people to, reach out. You have a call, a diagnostic call. What is that call called?
Yes, it's called a PM path diagnostic.
Hmm. And what happens during that call?
In that call, we get very clear on the direction that you want to go. We figure out what is blocking you, and then we come up with the next steps to move forward towards your goal with intention.
That is such a valuable opportunity. And I honestly would encourage anyone who is listening to this episode to, jump on that opportunity because I know that your calendar gets filled up pretty quickly, Kayla. And this opportunity might not be there forever. So, whoever's listening to this, sometimes the universe gives you a sign, take advantage of it. What are you going to lose? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Kayla, for sharing your wisdom again. And I'm so excited about the next episode about credentials.
Yes, I am also excited. We're going to talk all about the PMP, the CAPM, Google certs. What do I need? What do I not? It makes the head spin. So, yes, join us next time for a conversation on what kind of certifications you need or don't need to break into project management.